Homemaker Helen Jord is suing her former friends, 27-year-old daycare provider Larissa Roberts and her boyfriend Paul Dukin, for the return of pictures and family heirlooms. Larissa and Paul are countersuing for storage fees and pain and suffering.
Yes, case number 202 on the calendar in the matter of Jorg versus Roberts Dukin. All right, you've been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Jorg, the defendants were friends of yours, according to your complaint, and there came a time when you were being evicted from your apartment. You stored some things at their home, according to you. The storage lasted a little bit longer than anticipated. When you called and said you wanted your stuff back, they say it's gone. When did you start to store your property at the defendant's house?
In March, my apartment building had gotten sold, and a new owner came up, took over.
Let's keep it simple. March of 2003, you were being evicted.
Yes.
When did you have to get out of your apartment?
I went to court and stuff, and I had to get out till June 16th.
And where were Miss Roberts and Mr. Duncan supposed to store your things?
She was over helping me, and she said that she could help me store my stuff for nothing. I was in a hard time, and she had the money to help me, that she could help me.
I want you to answer my questions. Where was she supposed to store your property?
In a storage shed behind her house.
Is that right?
It's my shed on my property.
And did you move the property to your house and the storage shed, or just the storage shed?
To the storage facility, because the people
What do you mean the storage facility? That's where we're coming into a problem.
Into a storage unit.
When did you move the property from your house into a commercial storage facility?
The same day.
Why?
Because I couldn't fit it in my shed.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, it was discussed.
No, you did not.
So you moved her things from your house, where you said that you would store it, and your shed, into a commercial facility the same day you got the stuff?
Yes.
You have the bills from the storage facility?
I do.
I'd like to see them. Well, this says that on the 16th of June, she started a storage facility, and that September of 2003, some 3 months later, was the last month that the property was there. Is that right?
Yes.
When did you find out that
Your Honor, I went by her house on June 21st on a Saturday, and I went to go see if I could use the telephone, and I pulled up in her driveway, and her daughter was in the window. I went and knocked on the door, nobody came, and up in her driveway behind the fence sat all of my stuff out in the rain.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
So what did you do when you saw that?
I went to the door and I knocked. Nobody answered. She called and left a message on my phone. My message told me not to come to her house without calling before I came up.
If you saw your property that was out in the rain, why
I couldn't get back behind there. It was locked and she wasn't home.
Just a second. You get the police and say, she has my property. It's being ruined. I want to take it, and I'll put it in a storage facility.
Right. Well, I didn't have the money at that time to do it, and she offered to do it for nothing. And Michelle here knows that she was in the house that day that I knocked on the door.
She may have been in the house when you knocked on the door, but what I'm saying to you is, if you say you saw your property on that day, why didn't you get your property off her property?
I had no way of even hauling it, in my car. I had no way of doing it. And I tried calling her on August 2nd.
Well, what did you think she was going to do with it after the 25th?
She was supposed to put it in her storage unit. Every time she took stuff over there, I said, do you have enough room? Yes, we're rearranging. It'll all fit in there. Soon
after she took your stuff, you knew that it wasn't in a storage shed behind her house, and it wasn't in her house. What did you do between June and September to get your stuff?
She said everything was safe, put away, and it wasn't sitting out there.
But you knew that that wasn't true.
No, I went back by, and it was not there anymore. And I called on August 2nd.
I'm not talking about August. I'm talking about June.
I know,
July.
but August 2nd, I called to get my stuff back because I was ready to get my stuff and move it. And she wouldn't let me have it.
Okay. Step up here, please.
Michelle?
Tell me your name.
Michelle Doker.
You know anything about this?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to hear what you know about it.
I was over at Paul and Larissa's on a weekend, and she was talking to Helen, and I overheard a conversation that she was willing to help Helen with packing and moving, and she knew Helen didn't have the money to get a storage shed, and so they were going to help her out and get it for her.
For how long?
Until she got on her feet.
What if it took 5 years? How long? How old are you?
It was on for 2 weeks.
Shh. How old are you?
I'm 49.
When was the last time you were on your feet?
Just prior to, well, I lost my apartment in June, and then I got another place to live in August.
Prior to losing your apartment in June, madam, what you're telling me is that you didn't have $30 a month to give to a storage unit. It suggests to me that you hadn't been on your feet in a long time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So
but she knew what my income was, what I was getting, and she said that she had the money, and she told me she would do it for nothing. She wanted to help me out because she knew I had...
Would do what for nothing?
Store my stuff. And she,
in a storage facility. Store your stuff in a storage facility.
At her house. No, at her house.
No. Listen to me. We're not going to play with each other. According to you, she said she knew you didn't have any money, and she was prepared to pay for the storage of your stuff because she was prepared to help you out that way.
Right.
Well, paying for it means in a commercial facility.
She had offered that, and I told her not to do it because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And then she came over one day and said she had already rented it because they were going to use it, and that if she had to, she'd put some in there.
So that was after you saw your property out in her backyard, according to you, on June 25th. You can sit down now.
No, she offered the storage unit and said she had went and got it before I had seen it on her property.
So you knew then, Miss Jorg, that she was going to rent a storage unit to put your things in.
I didn't authorize her to put it in a storage unit.
What happened to her things?
They were in the storage unit. Come August, her boyfriend started calling and threatening me on my answer machine. He said that he didn't want to do anything to put him back into prison. I had to change my phone number.
Well, let me ask you this question. When she called for her stuff, what did you say to her?
I wanted reimbursed for the storage unit.
And how much was it that you wanted to be reimbursed?
$300.
How much did you pay for the storage unit?
It was about $300, all total, because there was late fees, because I couldn't pay it on the 1st of every month.
And how much of your stuff was in there?
Nothing.
And you're telling me that all these figures add up to $300, is that right?
I do believe so.
All right. When did you ask her for your property back in August?
I called her August 2nd, and I called her about 11:30, and
Is that true?
It was her and her boyfriend that was calling.
Was it around August 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But I called her...
So then I'm eliminating certain amounts of money, everything that was billed after August 1st, because you weren't entitled to $272 on August 1st. There was money added. So let's figure out what she owed you as of August 1st, if she owed you for this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sold Wayne the Hitachi, and he just paid the storage fees.
Yep.
You're a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
And later today,
they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters, and so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Helen George says former friends Larissa Roberts and Paul Dukin won't return her belongings. Larissa and Paul claim Helen wasn't paying her storage bill.
Okay. Now, at that point, she owed you maybe $138, and that is if I believed that there was nothing of yours in the storage shed. Something that I find it hard to believe, that you rented the storage shed for her and you didn't have any of your own stuff in there. But at that point, she owed you $300, and you had already paid $138. You could have said, listen, go get your stuff, but I'm going to take you to small claims court and sue you for the $138. Instead, what you allowed to happen was you allowed all of her property to be gone.
I sold it to a friend of hers.
Your Honor.
And I
Well,
was
just a
told-
second. That's outrageous.
He paid for the storage unit.
Your Honor.
That's outrageous. Why didn't you just give it back to her?
Couldn't get in the storage unit unless I paid it.
In August? You had been paying in August, according to this bill that you gave me.
As of August 5th, it was late, and they wouldn't let us in.
She called you August 2nd.
She never showed up for the time that she agreed to meet us to get the stuff.
When did she agree to meet you? When?
I can't remember exactly what date it was.
Okay. What was the name of the friend who paid the storage unit?
His name
Wayne.
was Wayne.
You know that person?
Yes, I do.
Have you spoken to Wayne?
Yes, I have, but he's in back in prison right now, and he did not buy the stuff.
All right. What stuff was in here?
20 years of my life, my personal stuff, I mean, everything. Michelle helped to get some of my pictures back and a few of my stuff back.
From Wayne?
Yes.
From Larissa.
She was seeing Wayne.
And Michelle's been over at Larissa's house. And
For the last 2 years, no.
Shh. Shh. Don't speak.
And Michelle told me that she's got stuff of some of my stuff in her house right now.
Like what?
She's got TVs, kitchen stuff.
No, I do not.
Pictures.
Were these things that were taken out of your apartment?
Yes.
What
She
kind of
has pictures.
televisions did you have?
I had a 46-inch Hitachi.
That was supposed to be in storage?
Yes.
It was. It was.
It was? And are you telling me that you sold Wayne the 47-inch Hitachi and he just paid the storage fees?
Yep.
No.
Don't believe you, my dear.
No.
You're a liar.
Everything
You're a
was in
liar.
there.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. What do you do for a living?
Daycare.
Somebody entrusts you with their children?
Yes.
What a mistake. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
How'd you stop? The return of your stuff, Helen.
I thought she was a friend.
I didn't know her anything.
I find out later that she intended to take my stuff all along.
I was just being a friend.
Friends don't do that to friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lambert versus Jones. Step forward, please.
Nurse's assistant Jerry Lambert is suing her former friends, Kevin and Rhonda Jones, for stealing her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda are countersuing for unpaid babysitting fees and damages to their car caused by Jerry's 7-year-old daughter.
Miss Lambert, you and your children needed a place to stay. You were having some difficulty, and the defendants, according to your complaint, took you into their home with your children. When you left, which I gather were not under favorable circumstances, Mr. and Mrs. Jones kept some of your DVDs.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you're suing for the return of these DVDs. Mr. and Mrs. Jones acknowledge that they have the DVDs, but they say in their counterclaim that you owe them for some babysitting fees and some damage that your little girl did to one of their cars. How do you know them?
Well, they've been friends of mine for over the last few years.
How many is a few?
About 7.
And why did you need a place to stay?
Because I moved back from where I used to live in Independence, Kansas for my brothers and stayed over there at their house, and they said I can move in and stay with them until I found another place to live.
Did you call them and tell them that you wanted to move back to town?
They called me at my brother's house.
To say what?
That they wished that I would move back to town, and they missed seeing me and the kids.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you invited her to come to your home?
Yes.
That was very nice of them, right?
Right.
When did you arrive at their home?
The 28th of April,
And when did you leave their home?
the 19th of May.
Why?
Because I had gone to work and they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters from having Rhonda watch my kids to a different babysitter. And so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
And why did you switch babysitters?
Because my kids were getting yelled and screamed at their house. They weren't being able to go outside or nothing like that.
Now, you arrived there on April 28th. When did you start working?
About the following week after that.
So the first week in May.
Mm-hmm.
So you were working about 2.5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
That's the babysitting that you are requesting?
Yes.
Did you have an arrangement with her with regard to babysitting fees?
Yes, I did.
And what was that arrangement?
That she would watch my kids while I was at work.
And how much were you supposed to pay her?
She never told me.
Did you ask her?
No, I didn't.
Did you think you had to pay her something?
Yeah.
Well, how much were you planning on paying her?
It just depends on how much she was charging me.
How much are you paying the current babysitter for watching your children?
It just depends on how much she asked me for, because she's a friend of the family's.
Well, how much did she ask you for last week?
Last week I gave her $70.
And the week before?
I get paid every 2 weeks, so
2 weeks before that, how much did you give her?
$70.
So you give her $70 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What are your hours of work?
Anywhere from 2 in the afternoon till 10 at night.
So when somebody babysits for your children, they really are feeding them and putting them to bed, doing their homework with them. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what arrangement did you have with Miss Lampert with regard to payment for babysitting?
Oh, I was charging her $1 an hour per kid.
Is that what you arranged with her, is my question, not what you were charging. So be very careful what you say to me, Miss Jones. Very careful.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerry Lambert says former friends Kevin and Rhonda Jones won't return her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda claim Jerry's 7-year-old daughter vandalized their van.
Did you have an agreement with her to be paid $1 an hour per child?
Yes.
When did you make that agreement with her?
When she got a job and started work.
And when was that?
It was around, I started watching, it was in May, around the 4th or 5th.
You watched the children for 2 weeks.
Right.
And how much do you say she owes you for the 2 weeks?
It was $134.
$134.
Right.
Okay. That's most reasonable. Did she give you any other money while she lived there?
She just gave us money for the utility bills.
She did. How much
Yes.
money did she give you?
The $150 for that month.
And what about food? Did she purchase her own food?
She was there for 2 weeks before she bought any food.
Okay. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's get to the damage. When do you allege that Miss Lambert's daughter, I assume this little girl over here, damaged your property?
We were sitting inside her uncle and aunt's house, and my daughter was outside playing with them, and she come to make it to our attention that the child over here was...
Well, you didn't see it.
Right.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about what happened.
I was outside playing and I went around the garage and I come back because I was trying to find a basketball. And I come over to Nixie and I looked over and I seen Jesselyn scratching on the side of the van with a rock. And I went in and ran to my mom and dad and found her and told them.
Did you tell her to stop?
Yes.
Did she stop?
No. Me and Nixie tried to get her off of the van, but she wouldn't listen. She said it was a chalkboard.
How old are you?
No.
How old are you?
7.
7. When did you tell the plaintiff about it?
She was present at the time that she come in and made it aware to all of us at the same time.
Remember that, Miss Lambert?
Yes, I do.
Did you talk to your little girl about it?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
That she wasn't going to throw rocks at the vehicle again.
That she wouldn't do it again?
Mm-hmm.
So there really isn't a question that you're responsible for the damage to the truck, right?
Well, my daughter says she didn't throw rocks at their truck.
Can I see a picture of the truck, please? The only reason I ask you these questions is because you understand that if damage to your truck took place at a time when you were babysitting, that would have been your responsibility, even though it was her child, because you were supposed to be supervising her little girl. But if this didn't happen on your watch, but it happened on her mother's watch, it's her mother's problem. Mother has to pay for it. Oh, some nasty scratches. You have an estimate how much it's going to cost to polish
right
those
here
or
we
buff
have an
them out?
estimate.
Have you had the car fixed?
No.
Okay. You're not friends anymore, I assume.
No.
Why not?
I just don't want to be friends with people like them anymore.
They sounded like very nice people to me.
Well, you don't know them as quite as well as I do.
Well, they were really nice people. They invited you to come home and live with them. They said you could stay with them until you got on your feet. They opened their home to you. They provided you and your 3 children with food. Sounds to me like they're very nice people. In any event, you owe her $134 for babysitting, and I'm awarding them an additional $800 to have the car painted for a total of $934. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim. The plaintiff gets her DVDs back.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, you may step out. This is case number 211 on the calendar in the matter of Snow versus Dean. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Snow, you, according to your papers, were having an affair with Mr. Dean prior to and during the separation that he had with his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Dean, in order to ensure that his wife wouldn't get her hands on some of his property, had you take out a storage unit in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Where he put his property. And you want him to pay all the storage fees that you paid on that unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Dean says the storage unit was supposed to be in both your names, that he told you within a couple of months that he was reconciling with his wife, that he wanted his stuff back, that you refused to let him take his stuff back, and you allowed the fees to build up on this storage unit. He acknowledges he owes you about $100, and he is counterclaiming for all of his stuff. When did you separate from your wife, Mr. Dean? Give me the month and the year. Shh. Let me finish the question. Month and year.
February 2004.
Beginning, middle, or end of February?
Beginning.
And when did you move your stuff out of the house?
Before the 15th of February.
And is that when you asked Miss Snow to make arrangements for a storage unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you reconcile with your wife?
In March,
Beginning, middle, or end?
in the middle.
We're still working on that, Your Honor. We have not gotten back together.
When in March did you tell Miss Snow that you wanted your property?
Actually, she found out that I was talking to my wife, and that's when she went ballistic.
Do you remember when that was?
It was around the middle, towards the end.
And how much was the storage unit?
It was $141 a month, and it went to $145.
Well, if you went ballistic and you stopped seeing him in March, why did you keep paying on the storage unit?
I paid, the first payment was done the 7th of February. The second payment was done around the 11th of March. That's when I stopped payment, when I found out he was with his wife.
Fine. So that's 2 payments of $141.
Right, I have the receipt.
That's $282. Why are you suing him for $1,000?
Plus, there is another outstanding of $577 that's owed on the storage unit now.
Why didn't, well, I understand that. Why didn't you allow him to get his stuff in March?
Because I went to him to get his stuff. I went to his father to pay me the money that he owed me, plus I went to his sister, and they all promised to give me the money.
When?
Around the end of March, before the next payment was due.
When did Mr. Dean call you and ask you for his property?
He never did call me.
Go ahead.
I had talked to him prior. My father had offered to pay her the money. My sister had offered to pay her the money. My wife had offered to pay her the money.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I offered. She didn't want it because she was being vengeful.
She was angry because
Yes,
she
ma'am.
went ballistic.
Yes,
So she
ma'am.
found out you were talking to your
That
wife.
was the whole case, yes.
That sound right, Miss Snow?
No, ma'am.
Well, he certainly owes you $282. He doesn't owe you any more. Where's his property?
It's in a storage unit.
Your Honor, the storage unit is being auctioned. She has the only keys to the storage unit. I offered to ask her to sign it over to me. I take over the payments.
When?
I would say we met the beginning of March, and I told her that I would take over the payments. She signed everything over to me. She said I was welcome to pay on it, but she was not signing it over to me, give me any keys, that she was keeping everything in her name until she got things worked out with Charles.
I went to both of them and said, when she came to me about the storage unit, she did not offer to pay me the money that was owed to me. She wanted me to give her the belongings without giving me the money that was owed to me. They could have had the keys. I don't want the stuff. It was appraised at $400 from the people in the storage unit.
So why don't you give them the keys?
They haven't given me my money.
Where are the keys?
Right here.
Give it to them.
Okay.
Good. There are the keys.
Ma'am, but the stuff is probably auctioned off by now.
Well, I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe her $282.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that you owe her $282 and not the $1,000 that she's asking
Yes,
for,
ma'am.
because I believe that after you and your wife started to talk again and you were reconciled, Miss Snow got angry. And she wasn't cooperative about you getting your stuff back. So if you let that stuff remain in storage, knowing full well that eventually they were going to auction it off, that's not right, Miss Snow. If, in fact, your stuff has been auctioned,
According to...
listen to me. Listen to me. I don't know whether it has or whether it has not, and neither do you. So I'm going to allow you to withdraw without prejudice your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you have a claim against her for maliciously withholding your property. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $282, and I'm allowing you to withdraw your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you can sue her for the full value of the items that you have receipts for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I believe that she's upset because I broke the relationship off.
I am also married myself, and I wanted to make my marriage work.
We're still not together because I still believe that they're still having contact, regardless of what either one of them say.
I have not had any contact whatsoever.
My opinion is it's not going to end. It's going to continue.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Gorman. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Anna Robinson is suing her former friend, water well driller Paul Gorman, for the return of a 1989 Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul took possession when she went to prison for operating a meth lab.
Ms. Robinson, according to what I gather from your complaint, Mr. Gorman was a long-time friend of yours.
Yes.
And a trusted friend. And there was a period of time when you became incarcerated. You were incarcerated on more than one occasion. While you were incarcerated, you gave Mr. Gorman power of attorney to handle certain of your affairs, cash your checks, etc. During your second period of incarceration, it is your claim that Mr. Gorman appropriated a truck that belonged to you by misusing the power of attorney. You want the truck back, or the value of the truck. Mr. Gorman says there is a very good reason why you can't have the truck back, and that's because he invested a substantial amount of money in the truck, including money to get it out of impound, where it was when you went to prison. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time you were incarcerated, Miss Robinson, when you gave Mr. Gorman the power of attorney?
98.
For what?
I was incarcerated for drugs.
And how long were you incarcerated?
16 months, I believe.
And when was the next time you were incarcerated?
July 12th of 2002.
And how long were you incarcerated?
For 3 years.
And that was for drugs also?
Yes.
When you were incarcerated in July of 2002, you had a truck?
Yes, ma'am.
What year truck did you have?
1989 Chevy Blazer.
And where was the truck when you were incarcerated?
I was driving the truck and it went to impound.
You were driving the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Were you transporting drugs in the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
And later today,
about 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Furling told me she had feelings for another female. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm gonna throw them out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anna Robinson says when she went to jail, former friend Paul Gorman took possession of her Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul refuses to return the vehicle.
Did you ask him to get the truck out of impound?
Yes. I said if he got the truck out of impound, they can drive it for the duration of my sentence.
Was that the conversation that you had with her?
No.
You tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her.
She basically asked if we can get it out and stuff, and we didn't have the money ourselves. And then time, lapsed on. Then we finally got a notice. They gave us 1 week to impound. They're going to sell it. And then she said, if you guys can get it out, because I'm going to be gone for probably permanently, you guys can have it. And she mentioned to the neighbor, and she goes, well, I'll lend you the money if you pay me back, and I hold the title. I said, sure. So I have a notarized statement from her saying this is what happened.
Miss Robinson, what would have happened to the truck if Mr. Gorman didn't?
Well, it would have been lost.
So what difference does it make to you if he went and got the truck out?
Because it was my truck. I mean, he got it out for me.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he called you and said they're going to sell the truck. I just got a notice. And he said what you said to him was, well, if you can get it out, it's yours.
I wrote him and them and asked him about the truck and various other things. How are you doing? What's up with the truck?
Well, do you have any letter from them indicating that they're taking care of the truck for you?
Nothing. They never wrote me back till the day before I got out of prison.
And then did they write you back?
They wrote me back and said, here's your address and here's our cell phone number.
What does that mean? Here's your address, here's your cell phone?
Because I wasn't sure where I was going to parole to. They were supposed to have moved within that 2-year period.
We were
and they never did end up
parole at our
moving.
address.
Just a second. Why were they so... Shh, Miss Robinson, why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
That's why I was blown away. I couldn't believe they would do this to me.
Well, I don't want you to stop getting blown away, because I have to make a decision as to whether or not I believe him when he says...
He didn't...
Shh, I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Whether I believe him when he says that you said to him, listen, do what you have to do. The truck's gone anyway. I can't get the truck out. If you have to borrow money from somebody, borrow money from somebody. He even says that he was prepared to give you the truck if you wanted it. When you got out, all you had to do was pay him the money that it cost him to get the truck out of impound, plus what he put into the truck. Didn't you say that to her?
Half, I'll sell for half of what I put into it. I'll cut that in half since I've used it.
And what did she say to you?
Basically, at first, said yes. And then the next thing I know, a couple of days, she moved out, and I haven't spoken to her since.
The day I moved out was the day he told me I couldn't have my truck back. The very next day, I went to the DMV so I could do this legally to get my truck back. And they'd already told me that the previous year, they took the title out of my name. A year after I was arrested.
I'm not talking about title back in your name. He said to you, give me the money that I...
And I agreed to that right from the day one.
Did you give it to him?
No, I didn't have the money at the time. I was just out of prison. I wasn't a week out of prison.
Well, then you wanted your truck back without giving him any money.
I never demanded the truck that day. I told them they could keep using the truck because I realized they had work to do. They had to use their truck.
I suggest that you get a job, make some more money. The 1989 truck that he got out of impound is his. He paid for it. You would have lost it anyway. These were people that were very nice to you. No good deed goes unpunished. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
The friendship is over?
Yes, I guess. I tried. My only was trying not to lose it.
Well, that's unfortunate. Anyway, your lawsuit's dismissed, Miss Robinson. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I bent over backwards, I think, every way I could, you know.
That's all I had left when I got out, and they knew that.
I even offered to just give back, knowing I probably never received the money.
It's more upsetting that I've lost 2 good friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Freeling versus Reed. Step forward, please.
19-year-old cashier Erin Freeling is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old landscaper Philip Reed, for disposing of all her belongings and for damaging their apartment. Philip is countersuing, claiming Erin stole his cat.
Miss Freeling, you and Mr. Reed used to live together as boyfriend and girlfriend. You lived in an apartment, is that right?
That's correct.
At some point you had an argument, you left, and you claimed that Mr. Reed disposed of some of your property. And in addition, he damaged the apartment so that you didn't get whatever security deposit back you were supposed to. Mr. Reed says that he didn't cause any more than normal wear and tear in the apartment, and he was forced to dispose of your property because he would abandon the property there, and he had to get the property out because the lease was over. Is that right, sir?
Yes, correct.
Okay. When did you move in together, Miss Freeling?
We had moved in together September of '03.
When did you leave?
July of '04.
Why did you leave?
He got too controlling, started being violent, so I decided to leave, and I had returned a week later to get some personal belongings and my cat. When I returned to get my cat, he had started pushing me back into the apartment. And at that point, I had my mom call 911, and we had the police come over, and they had to take him aside so I could get my personal belongings out of the apartment and my cat. I couldn't get that much stuff that day.
Why not?
Because I had a small car, and I was afraid to return to the apartment because he got very violent when I did go, and I didn't feel that I should have to call the cops every time I want to come over to my apartment.
Erin Freeling says when she broke up with Philip Reed, he threw all her belongings in a dumpster. She also says he purposely damaged their shared apartment.
Go ahead.
When I come back in September of '04, he had left my clothes on the middle of the floor, wet with urine. But I have videotape of all the damages or the stuff that he thrown in the dumpsters.
Approximately, we lived together for a year and a half. We had a loving, caring relationship. About 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Freeling told me she had feelings for another female, and she left the premises. I didn't hear from her. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm going to throw them out. She took my cat that my grandmother got for me last Christmas.
Don't interrupt him. Who took care of it?
I did, because she wasn't there most of the time.
Step up. What's your last name?
Reed, Audrey.
Miss Reed, you bought the cat last Christmas?
Yes, I gave it to him as a present.
Miss Freeling, where'd you get the cat from?
I got the cat for Christmas from Philip, and I took care of the cat. I have vet bills.
Can I see the vet bill, please?
This is even his health checkup. Here's his rabies tag. The cat stuff is mailed to my mom's house because she paid for it.
Who took the cat to the vet, Mr. Reed?
Mom did. Erin's mother did.
No, Erin and her mother.
Along with me.
Erin and her mother.
Correct.
Right, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you. You may sit down, Miss Reed. Now, what stuff do you claim he disposed of that belongs to you?
When I had returned to the apartment, found everything gone. This is a list of just the main stuff that I found that was gone.
Why didn't you come before? I don't buy the story that you didn't go before because you were afraid of him because he was violent. You could have gone with the police again. You went with them once. You could have gone with them again and gotten your stuff. Why didn't you go back?
Because I didn't have a vehicle that I could move the dresser.
That's baloney.
Because I didn't feel that I should have to get the law involved to get belongings back.
Well, then that's tough. I'm not dealing with something like a sugar dispenser, $3. Salt and pepper shakers, $5. Small cat bowls, $3. The only thing I have to make a decision today about really is the cat and whose cat it is. And Mr. Reed, get over the cat. She took the cat with her. She left a lot of other property behind, but she made sure she took the cat. Where's the cat now?
He's at my house.
All right. And the rest of the stuff that was disposed of, you deal with it. Now, you say that he damaged some property.
We had gotten into an argument. I locked myself in the bathroom. He had damaged the door. When I went back to the apartment, I found tomatoes on the wall.
Do you have a bill from the landlord charging you for cleanup?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Who paid the security deposit?
I paid the security deposit.
That was billed to both of us.
Now I'll see the video.
This is what we found dumpster diving. Here's where he threw most of his stuff. Notice, huh? Pretty good, huh?
There's tomato stains on the carpet.
On the carpet. This is the doorknob that he broke trying to get into the bathroom when I locked myself in the bathroom.
She says she locked herself in the bathroom when you knocked the door. Is that true?
No, I'm not a violent person.
Your Honor,
in any event, that was in January, and you lived with him until July. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And another thing is, she came a week before the lease was even up. Like a week. How come she couldn't confront me and say, hey, I'll pay half of it? Like a couple...
I have no idea. Listen, I'm not
Okay.
Dear Abby.
All right.
I mean, the whole thing is very irritating.
Yeah.
You know, two children playing house, and then things go wrong, and then you annoy the courts by asking them to get involved in who belongs to two placemats and a salt and pepper shaker. If you can't play house like adults, don't play house. Half of $490 is $245, which is left due and owing by each of you to the landlord. The apartment wasn't left in such bad condition. I'm speaking. The apartment wasn't left in such bad condition. The cat belongs to you. Get a judgment for $245. That's all.
You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 535 on the calendar, the matter of Hawkins versus Barker. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Do you see that water jug, Bird?
Yep.
You have one of those?
Yeah.
Did you ever?
Yeah.
Did you ever put coins in it?
Yep.
Must be a guy thing. My husband's been collecting that stuff. You collect that stuff. You collect that stuff. Do you collect coins in that? I don't know any women who collect coins in that thing.
Neither do I.
You know, they put bills in a bank. They put bills in a bank. Okay. Mr. Hawkins, this is the theory of your case. Mrs. Barker is your landlord.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had some trouble with a window in your house, in your apartment. You called her, and she said, well, my son will come over and take care of it.
Yes.
In order for him to do that at some point, you had to leave the alarm off, which you did do.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you came home, this jar that had been, a jar similar to this one, that had been filled with coins that you were collecting over the years that had thousands of dollars in it, was gone.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe that Mrs. Barker and or her son is responsible for your missing property.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been living in your current apartment, sir?
10 years.
You live alone?
Yes, at one point, yes. I mean, yes, I do.
Have you always lived alone?
No, ma'am.
Who else did you live with?
My son stayed with me for a couple years.
Until when?
Until sometime early August.
And what happened at that time?
Well, he wasn't following directions, and he had reached 18. And
So you kicked him out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Since August, has he been back to the house?
No, ma'am.
When did this incident happen with your money jar?
August 26th, ma'am, of 2004.
And what date in August did your son leave?
It was sometime around the beginning, like maybe about the 5th or the 6th, somewhere in there.
When he left on the 5th of August, did you change the locks?
No, ma'am.
You found a broken window. On what date?
August 20th.
Is that the date you notified Miss Barker?
Yes, ma'am.
What date were you told by Mrs. Barker's son that he would fix it?
He came over on August 20th. He said that he was leaving town and he wouldn't be back until Sunday, so he couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. So what did you do?
Well, I said, okay. I was actually leaving town also.
Now, you came back when?
I came back on the 22nd, that Sunday.
Your money jar was still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you keep it?
I kept it in a corner. It's like a corner in my living room.
When did you find it was missing?
On August 26th, when I arrived home from work.
When did Mr. Williams fix your window?
He fixed it on August 26th.
Stand up next to your mother, please. Is that correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes, that is correct.
When you got to his house on August 26th, you had told him to leave the alarm off because you had to get in to fix the window.
That's correct, yes.
And you went in on the 26th. Approximately what time?
I'd say late morning, between, I'd say 10 and 12. My recollection's a little blurry at the moment.
Tell me what happened when you went in to the apartment.
The night before, I went by the unit, because I live in the same complex 3 doors down, at which time I took duct tape, and I duct taped it from the outside only, because I didn't have clearance to get into the unit. So I pulled the screen off, and I put duct tape on it and secured it until the next morning, because I didn't want to pull it out then and leave it overnight, and that would be very unsafe. So the next morning when I came back, late morning, on the 26th, I observed the tape off the window, and the bottom portion of the glass was laying on the deck in front of the window, with the tape gone and the screen back on the window. And so when I approached the door to open it, I was puzzled initially, and so I opened the door, and I recollect that the deadbolt was not locked, just the bottom lock, and I, entered the unit, and I was in there for 8 to 10 minutes, took the window out, took it to the glass shop. They told me it'd be about, 2 to 3 hours it would take, and come back later. And before I left, I secured the window back up by drawing the blinds, putting the screen back on, and exiting the unit and leaving it the way as if when I entered it, with just the bottom lock locked.
Okay. You don't know anything about his money jar?
Never saw. Like I said, I was in there for 8 minutes. As long as it took me to walk in the door, assess it, pull the window out, put the screen back in, lock the place up, and take it to the shop.
Do you have any criminal record, Mr. Williams?
No, I don't.
That was a tenuous no, I don't.
Well, I do, actually. But I believe that's irrelevant.
I had assumed that you didn't.
Right.
I had assumed that you didn't, but now that you tell me that you did, do you have a conviction for anything?
I don't recall what my conviction was. It was years ago, but I don't think that's irrelevant. 6, 7 years ago.
How old are you now?
33.
Since then, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer.
Right.
Good. Now, Mr. Hawkins, you're going to have to explain to me what proof you have that Mr. Williams and/or his mother, who was the manager of the property, should be responsible for the loss of your money jar.
Like I said, he told me to turn off the alarm. The other thing is...
well, he had to turn off the alarm or give him the code.
Yes.
Because otherwise he couldn't get into your unit.
Exactly.
You could have stayed home from work.
Yes.
And said, I'm not turning off the alarm, I'm going to stay home from work, and I'll let you in.
Well, on Monday and Tuesday, when I was home, because he actually told me on Monday that he was coming to fix the window, and I didn't hear anything from him. So I went to work, and he called me on my cell phone at work on Wednesday.
So you spoke to him?
Yes.
You could have said, I'm not going to be home. Wait until next Monday. I'll take the day off, and you can come and fix the window. You didn't have to turn the alarm off.
No, you're right.
Who was this?
This is my witness, Jim. We had to move the sparkless bottle because he cleans carpets, and just saying that it had to take a big person to actually move that.
I believe it had to take a big person. So he's your friend?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have other friends in the building?
No, ma'am. He doesn't live in my building.
Do you have any friends in the building after 10 years?
No.
None. You have no friends at all?
Yes, I have friends. Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir.
And later today...
Started with my wife's car. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now let's get to your son. Your son left at around the same time. Did you ask your son about your money jar?
Yes, I did.
Why would you ask your son about your money jar?
Because I don't have any enemies or anything. So I went to his mom's house where he was staying.
When did you go to his mom's house?
I went on Saturday. Well, I called him on Friday, on the day that it happened.
And he said?
He said no, and he wouldn't do anything like that.
But you thought he might?
I just felt that, there was tension between me and my son when he left, but...
And you knew that he knew it was there?
Yes.
And it's possible that it was your son?
It's possible.
It's possible it was Mr. Williams?
Yeah, it's possible.
But Mr. Williams would really have to be pretty stupid to steal your money, knowing that he lives in the complex and knowing that you know that he was going to be in your apartment that day.
Yes, ma'am.
So he'd have to be a fool. He doesn't strike me as being a fool. Mr. Hawkins,
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to suggest to you that you got to keep your money in a bank. And if you have $3,000 worth of coins, keeping them in your apartment is not a very smart thing to do. Now, I assume you reported this matter to the police.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you reported the matter to the police, you indicated that the perpetrator of this crime was unknown to you.
Yes.
It's unknown to me as well. So what you're suggesting is that I hold the defendants responsible because they were in some way negligent.
Yes.
But I don't find that they were negligent, sir. I think that you had certain options, and one of your options was that you could have said, I will be home. We will fix a time when you can come in and fix the window, but I'm not turning the alarm off for several hours because you're not going to be here for a period of time when the alarm is off because you've got to take the window to have it fixed.
But isn't it as a manager or, you take some responsibility because, when you enter someone's apartment, you're liable for, any wrongdoing?
He's not liable for someone else's wrongdoing, sir. He's not, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Williams nor his mother are responsible if your son stole your money jar.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right.
But
and we don't know whether that's true or not, whether it was your son, maybe it was your son and some of his friends, maybe it was some of your son's friends. You don't know that.
Can I say an interesting fact? When he returned home later that evening, he was upset, and he asked me how come I didn't deadbolt the lock. And it was really puzzling to me because I told him the policy usually with a manager is usually when you enter a unit, you leave it the same way when you exit. So when I entered the unit, that deadbolt was not locked. And he said, oh, I always deadbolt it. I always deadbolt it. And I said, Brian, the deadbolt was not locked. And that's the reason why I didn't deadbolt it when I exited after completion of the job. And he furthermore asked me if I played his Nintendo game. And he said, yeah, the Nintendo game was out, the remotes were out, it was left on, there was a game in it.
Is that right, sir?
No, it was actually pulled out of the, I have an entertainment stand, and it was actually pulled out with some other items.
So you mean the person who came in that stole your money jar also played your Nintendo?
Well, they were intending to take it.
Either they were intending to take it or they were playing with it. Was there a game in it?
No, there wasn't no game in it.
He told me there was a game in it that wasn't in it prior. And I remember specifically him saying that the remotes were out and the power on the unit was on.
Is that right, sir?
It off. The power was on because they pulled it out. They pulled it out. That and some other things were packed up right in front of the Nintendo.
You mean some other things that somebody was trying to burglarize?
Well, it was my PlayStation, some games, and some DVDs.
Mr. Williams certainly had more than enough time if he wanted to take that property in order to do it, right?
I guess that they forgot it.
No. No. I would look elsewhere, Mr. Hawkins. I don't think these people are responsible for your loss at all.
May I make a comment? When Brian initially made the phone call to me to let me know that the window was broken, I questioned how it got broken.
No, ma'am.
And he informed me he thought it was his son trying to break in.
No, ma'am. No,
that
I
his
didn't.
son had tried several times in the past.
No, ma'am.
And I said, well, gee, Brian, if you or your son broke the window, I'm not responsible to repair it. That's something that you need to repair. And then he changed his whole story that he wasn't sure if it was his son or not.
No, ma'am. That's not true.
Well,
That's
some of
not
your
true.
conduct, Mr. Hawkins, afterwards suggests that she may be telling the truth because certainly if my house was burglarized, I would not call one of my children to find out if they were the perpetrators.
No,
Listen to me very carefully. If my house was missing items and it was clear that my house was the subject of a burglary, the most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir, but it entered your mind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now, you not only called your son, according to you, you went to his mother's house?
Yes, ma'am.
To look for the property? I wouldn't think, would not dawn on me that that's the place that I would look.
That was...
So you thought about it. So what Ms. Barker says when she says to me that you thought your son may have tried to get into the house is supported by what you did after you found your house burglarized.
No, ma'am.
Well, it is, sir.
That wasn't
That's what I find, sir. They are not responsible. Look elsewhere. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I was taken aback because, you know, prior to this, there was a friendship, kind of, you know, neighborly friendship.
I really don't have our friend. She's been a nice owner,
And I was taken aback by it.
her son, you know, I hope that they didn't take it personal.
Brian's been there. I've owned the building for 8 years, and he's been a great tenant. And he had some problems with his son. You know, sometimes we all have problems with our children.
I just hope that things can remain the way that they were, because they have been good people to me.
Judge Judy is the best. She's very fair.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Beaver. Step forward, please.
Registered nurse Lori Clark is suing the father of her son's bandmate, communications consultant David Beaver, for the cost of musical equipment. Lori says her son's equipment was damaged in a fire at David's home.
Mrs. Clark, your son and the defendant's son are in a band together. Your son had some music equipment that he had brought over to Mr. Beaver's home. Mr. Beaver's home was destroyed by fire. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I don't think it was an intentional fire.
No.
It was an accident. And according to you, your son's music equipment was destroyed. And you want Mr. Beaver to pay for that. Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
Zachary Clark.
Zachary, when did you bring this music equipment to the Beaver home?
Right when we started.
Give me a month.
November, maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Let's say November. And who did you speak to before you brought it over there?
Ben.
Who's that?
His son.
How old are you?
20.
Is Ben the person that you're in the band with?
Yeah.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with Ben. Step up, Ben. Tell me about the conversation.
He answered a thing I put up at a Guitar Center for looking for a drummer. And we just talked, and I brought my stuff over. We were just interested in playing music together.
Where was your music equipment stored?
In Ben's room, which is like the basement, the whole lower level.
When for the first time did you meet Mr. Beaver?
The first day I went over there, I think, yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about your music equipment? Before the fire?
Before it?
Before it?
No.
What makes you think, Miss Clark, that an accidental fire renders Mr. Beaver liable for this music equipment?
I claimed it on my insurance company, and they denied the request to cover the equipment.
So? What makes you think that he's responsible?
Because that's where the equipment was at the time of the fire, was in the basement of his home.
So?
The equipment is damaged. There's smoke damage, extensive smoke damage.
So?
And I was under the impression that he could claim the damage on his insurance company.
Well, maybe he could, but what makes you think that if he didn't, that he would be liable for the damaged equipment? It was not stored there with his permission. He certainly did not assume any liability to act in any more than a reasonable and prudent manner with regard to it, not to do anything to actively damage it or to prevent it from being damaged from some other force, not leaving it under an open window to let it be hit by the elements. Just reasonable precaution. But this is a fire. This is an accident. Why would he be liable for this equipment?
I guess I thought because the equipment was on his property that both of us would claim the equipment to our insurance.
Well, let's say your car is parked in a parking lot, outside parking lot, and from overhead, a plane emanates some stuff, piece of metal, falls down. You don't know where the plane is, you don't know who the owner of the plane is, what company it is, but the thing comes down and destroys your car. Who's responsible? The owner of the parking lot?
Possibly myself, or...
Not the owner of the parking lot, just because the car happens to be sitting in a parking lot. The Beaver is responsible for certain things. If he knew that the equipment was there, if he knew that the equipment was there under these circumstances, then he's responsible to exercise ordinary, prudent care to see that nothing happens to it. How did this fire start, Mr. Beaver?
It started with my wife's car. We have a tuck-under garage. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house from there. So about a third of the house was damaged by the fire, and the rest was all smoke damage.
Did you question your insurance company with regard to this young man's equipment?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And?
The fact that we did not own the equipment, we technically could not claim it on our coverage, and we did not.
So he could not claim it on his insurance, so you want him to pay for the damaged equipment out of his own pocket. I don't think he's liable. It's unfortunate, But I don't think he's liable. Is the equipment usable?
It still is, it works, but they told us not to use it from the Savage Audio. Mr. Beaver brought it in and had it checked out, and it says that smoke damage exceeds the value.
Well, are you working after school?
Do I work? No.
Maybe you better get a job so you can buy some new equipment. Right?
Yep.
Good idea. Case dismissed.
All right, excuse you may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 489 on the calendar in the matter of Goodman versus Kyle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Goodwin, Miss Kyle was the resident manager in the apartment complex where you used to live.
Correct.
And you're suing her for thousands of dollars because you say she ignored a medical condition that you had, placing your life at risk, both yours and your daughter's.
Correct.
And you want your pain and suffering that she caused you, some medical bills. In addition, you want a security deposit of $1,000 that she hadn't returned to you.
Correct.
And Miss Kyle says she owes you absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, you lived there the last month without paying rent, and that's what your security deposit went for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now let's get to the medical condition first, because I find that quite interesting. I gather there is a gate.
Correct.
In your former complex where you lived, and that when you moved in, you were told that in order to get in and out of the gate, you needed a clicker, like a remote. And it was $25.
Yeah, but at the time, I did not own a...
Don't get ahead of me, please. Okay. I'll let you fill in the blanks. Okay. I'm sort of setting this out so that Bird doesn't get bored.
Okay.
So you opted not to get a clicker because you didn't have a car.
No, I had a remote control, but it wasn't one that I purchased from her. At the time, I did not own a car, so there was no reason for me to have a remote control to the gate. But the only reason why I got
it... listen to me. You didn't buy a remote control from her for $25.
Correct.
When did you move in?
I moved in April.
April of what
2004.
All right. And you lived there with your daughter?
My daughter and my son.
Then in October of 2004, your daughter had a seizure.
Correct.
And paramedics came and fire department and everybody else, and they can get in to the complex, but because you didn't have a clicker, they couldn't get out. At least the ambulance couldn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Correct.
So you were angry because your daughter was stuck in the ambulance or whatever, and you went to her the next day, I assume, and
yes,
said what? And said what?
I was very upset. I approached Miss Linda Kyle and informed her that around 4 o'clock that morning, the paramedics came and picked up my daughter because she had a seizure, and the fire truck came and opened up the gate. After the fire truck left, then the paramedics were there. When the paramedics got ready to leave out of the gate, there was no way for them to, when they went around the apartments,
Listen
apartments
to me,
is only
Ms.
one.
Goodwin, we're not creating a novel here. This is a novella, small. The ambulance couldn't get out.
No, they couldn't.
So you went and complained the next day?
Yes, I did.
And what did Miss Kyle say to you?
She did nothing.
Your daughter suffers from seizures?
That was the first seizure that I've ever had my daughter have.
Well, after you had that first experience, you know what I would have done?
No.
I would have bought a clicker.
Okay.
You chose not to do that. And then a month later, you had an asthma attack.
Correct.
And you still didn't have a clicker.
Exactly, but that has nothing to do with the paramedics. The paramedics should be able to get out of that gate at all times. The only one that has a code is the fire truck. Once the fire truck leaves, there's nothing that the paramedics can do. The night that I had that asthma attack, there was no way for them. They saved my life. I was hospitalized for 3 days because of that. And the first time, she did nothing.
What I don't understand is why you didn't buy a clicker.
Why I didn't? Because I didn't have a car. There was no need for me. After someone stole it inside the apartment.
Listen to me. There was a need because a month before, your daughter had a serious incident, according to you. And had you had a clicker at that point, you would have gone out in the ambulance with your daughter, gone like this, and the gate would have gone up.
Well, at the time, when a 2-year-old is sitting there having a seizure, that remote control does not mean anything to me. That is my 2-year-old daughter. That's the only daughter that I have. That remote control.
I want to tell you something. You're not making sense to me. You're not making sense to me.
The remote control, okay, the remote control is a big thing to me, okay? It is. But when it comes to the fire truck and the paramedics, that has nothing to do with me having a remote control to the gate. That has nothing to do with it at all, period. I could have lost my life in that paramedics. That's why I'm so upset.
Listen to me, madam. What I don't understand is your daughter had a seizure in October. The paramedics had a problem getting out of your gate. Now you know that your daughter is subject to seizures. I would have said to myself, I have a 2-year-old child. I'm not going to be put in a situation where this can ever happen to me again. Here's $25. Give me a clicker. I'm going to keep it in my house in case I ever have that kind of problem again. That's the way you protect your child. Why would you blame that on somebody else?
Well, it's a lot when it comes to Miss Linda.
Now, we're not talking about Miss Linda. I'm talking about you being a responsible parent.
Yes,
you now have
I'm
a
very
child that you
responsible when it
know
comes
is
to my
subject to seizures, who may in the future have that kind of an emergency. And just as you would go and get the medicine for your child that the doctor gave you, you would want to ensure that if an ambulance had to be called again, you would be able to get the ambulance in and out. I mean, if you disapprove of the way this apartment complex is run, you have a choice. You can move.
Correct.
That's your choice. But to stay there after your 2-year-old has had a seizure without the ability to get her out in case of an emergency is very, very irresponsible.
Well, I thought she was going to fix the problem after I approached her with it.
What made you think that?
Because she's the manager of the apartments. And
No,
you
what
would
did
think
she say to you that led you to believe that she was going to fix it?
She told me they had a code to the gate. They don't have a code to that gate because we sat out there for 30 minutes. When I had my asthma attack, they went knocking on people's doors at 4 o'clock in the morning to get me
Just
out.
a second. Let me ask you a question. They were knocking on people's doors, the paramedics?
Correct.
What did they want when they were knocking on people's doors?
They wanted to get out of the gate.
They wanted a
remote control to get out of the gate.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you living someplace now that you
Yes,
like?
me and my kids are very happy.
Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
And later today,
The numbers came up. I won. I was amazed.
I seen it on the ground, and I picked it up, and I did cash it.
Once you found out that it was his lottery ticket, you shouldn't have kept the money.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monique Goodwin says she nearly died from an asthma attack because paramedics couldn't open the security gate to her apartment. Manager Linda Kyle says Monique never purchased a remote control.
Now, after your incident in November, at some point you were served with an eviction notice. Do you want to tell me why you served her with an eviction notice?
The eviction notice that Ms. Goodwin was served with had nothing to do with the gate. It was due to a nuisance matter where her and her sister was fighting all outside.
You have a complaint?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Who witnessed this?
Actually, it was 3 or 4 apartments in the complex that called and reported that there was a big scene.
Did you have surround sound in your apartment?
No, I do not own surround sound.
Your Honor, she told me she owned surround sound.
When did she tell you that?
When I asked her to turn her music down.
What did she say?
She said that she didn't feel that she should have to get rid of her surround sound, that she had a right as long as she paid her rent and her apartment to play her music whenever she felt like it.
Which is a lie.
Okay, so you were served with this 3-day notice to quit on December the 1st.
No, I wasn't.
When were you served?
I was given this notice to quit on December the 3rd. I tried to give her my rent on the 1st of December. She looked at me with a big smile on her face while me and my mom was in her office and told me that she was not going to accept my rent.
Okay. So she said, I'm not going to accept your rent on December 1st. You were given a notice to vacate the apartment. When did you, in fact, leave the apartment?
We went to court on January the 5th. I didn't leave until January the 22nd.
What was your rent?
My rent was $625.
Did you pay rent for December?
I tried. I have.
Don't tell me you tried.
No, I.
Did you pay rent for December? Did you live there in December?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay rent in January?
No, I did not, because she.
Did you live there in January?
Yes, I did. I tried to give her my rent. She did not want it.
No, she wanted you out. The only issue is whether, when you moved out, you owed any money. You lived there for 2 months, You didn't pay rent for 2 months. I'm not here to determine whether or not the underlying case of the eviction was right or wrong. That's been resolved by the housing court. I'm here because you want your security deposit back, and what I'm saying to you is you expected to live there for December and January and not have, I'm speaking, and not pay rent?
I'm gonna get mad.
Are you living someplace now that you like?
Yes, me and my kids are very happy.
Good, that's what I think should happen. I think that you and your children should find a place to live where you're very happy. Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
But the problem...
Listen to me. You're in a place where you're happy. All right. Now, you were given an opportunity to get a remote control for the gate. You chose not to get one. Even after your daughter had a seizure, you chose not to get one.
What does that have to do with the paramedics? I don't understand that.
Miss Goodwin, listen, there are no free rides.
Yeah, but this is the receipt that I tried to give her my rent money. But she would not take it from me.
You just paid it with your security deposit, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Me and my daughter could have lost our lives while we were in that paramedics.
Well, I think Judge Judy got a chance to see through Miss Monique.
This lady is a very good liar, and she lies all the time.
She's young. This is her first apartment.
She's just and I hate her, and I'm going to keep hating her.
She's a little hard-headed. You can't make her understand.
She's just like, ugh.
Pray for patience.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hackett versus Duval. Step forward, please.
Tree surgeon James Hackett is suing medical assistant Patricia Duval for cashing his winning lottery ticket after he lost it.
Mr. Hackett, it is your claim that the defendant cashed your winning lottery ticket.
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant says she found it. It's hers.
That's correct.
When did you purchase this lottery ticket, sir?
I purchased it on a Saturday. It was October the 2nd of last year. And on that day, I went down to the lottery agency and found they weren't open. So I put it in my wallet and decided...
Just a second. When was the drawing?
It was drawn that day.
The same day?
Yes.
Where did you watch the numbers?
It was on a TV screen in the store. The numbers came up. It was the first game. I won. I was amazed.
Had you played those numbers before, or was it a random?
Three of the numbers are birthdays. My mother's, and one of my other deceased brother's birthday. The other three are random numbers that come up a lot. So I played them together and happened to win.
Okay. Where did you purchase the ticket?
Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Where?
It was a convenience store in Massachusetts.
When you found out that you won on these numbers, what did you do with your winning ticket?
I brought it up to the counter, and the store manager, what he does is a general practice. In that store, they photocopy it and hang it up on a little display thing to tout the winning numbers.
So he photocopied your lottery ticket?
He did, fortunately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Hackett is suing Patricia Duval for cashing his winning lottery ticket. Patricia says she found the ticket, so it should be hers.
What happened to the ticket, Mr. Hackett?
Well, the following Monday, I went back to work. I'm a professional tree climber.
A tree climber, what is that?
I climb trees and reduce them, take them down. I do difficult takedowns.
Okay.
And I did all the hard work in the morning, and there was one easy one. And 21 years of climbing, this one little stupid tree I'm climbing, a branch broke. I fell out of the tree 12 feet. I hit the ground. I break 8 ribs, my wrist. I puncture a lung. And the ambulance comes to get me, and I can hear a chopper coming. I can't breathe. And I have the guys flip me over on my back and take my gear off, my saddle, my hooks, my chainsaw, all the stuff, my helmet, was all my safety gear.
Is that when you claim that you lost your lottery ticket?
They cut my pants off, my wallet.
Is that what you claim?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Where exactly was this? Where did this happen?
In Berlin, Massachusetts.
Is that where you live, in Berlin?
No, ma'am.
Where do you live?
Douglas, Mass.
Were you in Berlin?
Not Berlin, no.
Where did you find the lottery ticket?
Northborough, Mass, at a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot.
How far is that from Berlin?
I couldn't tell you.
No.
It's a town or two away, ma'am.
So it's one town away?
Yeah, I believe so.
Good. Now we come to you.
Okay.
You found the lottery ticket in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot,
Yes,
one
I did.
town away from where he lost his lottery ticket, right?
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
Well, my husband and I came out of the Dunkin' Donuts and we were going to our car, and I seen it on the ground, and I picked it up and looked at it. It also had like a confirmation with the ticket saying that apparently it was a winner. So it was late, about 6:37 at night.
What date?
October 7th.
Okay.
And so I picked it up, and the next day I went to the lottery agent, and sure enough, it was a winner, and it wasn't signed, so I signed it, and I did cash it.
Cash it. Okay. And how much money did you get?
$1,600.
Ma'am, I have a problem with that.
Now, Mr. Hackett, after you realized that your lottery ticket was missing, you contact the lottery office?
Yes, I boogied down there from, as soon as I got out of the hospital.
And at that point, you went down there with the numbers that you had.
Yes.
Did you go back to the store that had posted the winning lottery?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me see it, please.
Ma'am, she's saying she's found...
Oh, it's a Keno.
It's a Keno.
Keno.
Yeah. I'm not in the habit of playing it, but if I have a fistful of dollars, I'll play it once in a while.
Okay. So you went down to them, got this.
Yes, ma'am.
Got this.
Unfortunately, they had photocopied that.
Right.
3 of those numbers are birthdays that mean something to me.
Don't say anything.
Sorry, ma'am.
You never can tell. So far, you're doing okay.
But, ma'am, I don't know this gentleman at all.
I don't
Never
know you
seen
either.
him before.
Mr. Hackett, did I
apologize.
give you an opportunity to speak? Was she quiet when you were speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't interrupt her.
I've never seen him before in my life.
You don't have to see him.
And there was no signature on it. And like any normal person, if you find something that's worth something and there's no signature, no ownership, then you're going to keep it, you know?
I am satisfied that Mr. Hackett lost his lottery ticket.
Well, yes.
And based upon this, I am satisfied that the winning lottery ticket that you found belonged to Mr. Hackett.
Ma'am, I hit it.
I'm speaking!
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's say, Miss Duval, that you're walking along the street and you find a 4-carat emerald-cut diamond. Doesn't have a name, doesn't have an address, doesn't have anything. And you take it home. And you say, gee, this looks great. I'm going to size it and wear it on my finger. And you do. Then you're having your nails done a week later. And the woman at the next counter is sitting there and she says, it's a nice ring. And you say, yeah, I found it. She said, well, I lost my ring last week. Do you mind if we take it in to the jeweler? Because I have my GIA that you get when you buy a diamond, and it maps all the little dots in a diamond so it can identify, you know, one diamond from another. You go with her to the gemologist, and he said, that diamond belongs to that report.
Yes, and I would agree. Yes, I would agree.
That's her diamond.
Yes. And
Even
no
though you
problem,
found
take
just
it
a
back,
second.
yes.
Even though you found it.
Yep.
He lost his lottery ticket. His problem is not with you finding it and cashing it. His problem is once you found out that it was his lottery ticket, you shouldn't have kept the money.
I just found out when I got notified.
Oh, there we go. So we have no problem. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. Thank you.
Your Honor. Parties are excused. You may step out. Case number 234 on the calendar in the matter of Gransbury Conte versus Marine. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Gransbury Conte.
Miss Conte, you have a son.
That is correct.
Whose name is Zane. He is currently incarcerated.
He's in a rehab.
Did he go into rehab after his term in prison?
Yes.
This lady has a daughter. Her daughter has a child with your son.
Yes.
Her daughter is currently in rehab.
No, she's home, ma'am.
How long was she in rehab?
35 days.
Probably not enough.
Probably not.
But this is not about the child. This is not about anything. This is about a dog. Because it is your claim that Miss Marine
Yes.
had your son's dog, a year-old pit bull, and she took possession of the dog when your son went to prison. There was an agreement that she would do that, but after 9 or 10 months, she gave the dog away. Miss Marine says nobody wanted this dog. The dog was an untrained animal when she got him. And she's counterclaiming because she said, if you've got your son's power of attorney, you ought to pay her for the year's worth of food and vet bills. And in addition to the fact that she fed this dog and took care of him for a year, he also was dangerous and caused injury to her pet duck. And there was substantial vet bills. So that's what the case is about. Don't you have better things to think about than this?
Yes.
You've got a son who's got a drug problem. You've got a daughter who's got a drug problem. You share a grandchild.
Yes.
And how old is this grandchild?
She's 22 months, ma'am. Yeah.
I'm going to get to your case in a second, but it would seem to me that you two ladies, if you were intelligent young ladies, would concentrate on this 22-month-old child who had the misfortune of having two drug addicts as parents.
Absolutely.
Ah! We reach an accord. Perfect. All right, so let's take care of the dog first, and then we're going to talk about the baby.
Okay.
When your son went to jail, why didn't you take the dog?
I went to Spokane to pick the dog up. At that time, I was with Carrie. I stayed at Carrie's house, and we had an agreement because I was going to take the dog to take it back, and she had asked me if I would leave the dog with her because she felt that it made it like my son was still there.
You mean her daughter?
Yeah, her daughter.
Go ahead. So her daughter said, leave me the dog because I will feel close to my man.
Yeah, exactly. And I had offered, you know, I said, if anything comes up with the dog, if you can't handle it, anything that you need to give me a call, you know, I had no problem, you know, making payments for dog food or whatever. You know, we did talk about that.
That's with her daughter?
Yeah, with her daughter. Melody wasn't even in the picture.
Okay. But there came a time when Melanie came into the picture.
Carrie had gotten sick. She had some other medical problems.
Her daughter?
Yes. Melody, from what I understand, stepped in to help Carrie with the dog.
And when was that?
I'm not sure exactly when, because Carrie and I were not talking after November because of Melody.
Why?
When I went down there for my son's trial, I had stayed with Carrie, and Melody has nothing but horrible things to say about my son to my face on a regular basis. Even when she put on my wedding, that's all I heard about.
Oh, okay. So the mother was angry at your son?
Exactly. And she had interceded a letter from my son to Carrie, and she said that if Carrie's plan was to be a jailhouse bride, she wasn't going to have no part of it. She was going to give her an ultimatum that she wasn't going to take care of her child and the dog and everything if this is what her daughter's choice was going to be. I went and I, you know, told Carrie what she had said. Carrie confronted her mom, and Melody twisted it and said that wasn't what she said, and then, you know, Carrie wasn't talking to me.
If you had a daughter, would you want her to marry somebody who was in jail?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Because you would think that that was a bad choice.
Exactly.
So how many months did the dog stay with Miss Marine before you asked for the dog back?
April is when I found out she gave the dog away. So
Now,
it was like 7 months.
Now, what I'm asking you, so you knew that Miss Marine had the dog for 7 months.
Not her, Carrie.
How many months did you know that she had the dog, not
None.
Carrie? None. At all?
None.
Okay. And she actually had the dog for how many months?
Between 8 and 9 months.
After your daughter couldn't take care of the dog anymore?
My daughter never took care of the dog.
So that means that for 8 or 9 months you weren't checking on this dog regularly?
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, who did you check with the dog?
There's a mutual party that was taking care of my wiener dog.
You mean a dachshund?
Yeah.
Why wasn't the dachshund with you?
My husband and I had just gotten married, and we lived in an apartment.
So you couldn't take care of these dogs anyway?
We were in the process of purchasing a house.
So there was a period of time when you could not take care of not only this dog, but you couldn't take care of your little dog because you were in an apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So get over it. This wasn't a dog that you were attached to. This wasn't a dog that you were responsible for at any time physically. You're just suing her about this dog because you're angry at her.
No, she has no right to take my son's dog. This is about my son.
Stop worrying about your son. Let your son worry about getting his life together.
Well, he is doing that.
Well, that's good. He's in rehab, and he should worry about taking care of himself, not a 90-pound untrained pit bull.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of
She
suing her...
has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend Melody Marine owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
Madam, devote your energies to rehabilitating your son and perhaps engaging your granddaughter in some sort of a relationship before you ruin the relationship that you have totally with this lady who, it appears to me, at least based upon what I read, has filed a petition for custody of the child. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Temporary.
Well, somebody's got to take temporary custody of her.
I have a letter here that clearly shows what Melody's intent is towards my son and towards me, you know.
So, now let's get to the expenses of the dog that you're talking about on your counterclaim, then I'm going to read the letter. You have a counterclaim because you want the cost of the food, etc., for the dog, is that right?
That would be nice.
Well, it would be nice, but she's not responsible for that. You chose to keep the dog. As far as I'm concerned, you could have given the dog away the day it came into your possession. What happened with your duck?
In the morning when I go out to open up the chicken coop and feed them and let them out for the day, Samson's just charged in before I did and kind of head-butted the duck and smacked his head on the back of the chicken coop, and his eye just gradually swelled and festered and eventually had to be removed.
So that you have to understand that Samson was your responsibility, and if you were in any way negligent in taking care of him that allowed him access to the duck, that's not her fault. Now, well, this certainly is a very angry letter. It's a letter, Miss Marine, that you wrote to Zane, I assume, while he was incarcerated.
Yes.
And let me tell you how I evaluate this letter. Your son and her daughter, who she refers to in this letter as a bunch of miserable dopeheads, she refers to her own daughter that way, created a child that she now has to take care of. You have other children?
My children are grown. I have another grandchild.
How old is your other grandchild?
He'll be 6 next month.
Who does he live with?
His mother.
That's what's supposed to happen. You have children who are in their 20s and 30s, and they choose to have families, and they come and visit every Sunday or every other Sunday, and they spend 2-3 hours. They mess up your house, and then they go home. They don't come to live with you when they're 2 years old. You're having a wonderful time. You got a new husband, you got a new house, you're moving, everything is nice, and she's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's taking care of kids who have the stomach flu and virus and daycare and all this other stuff, because 2 young people who didn't know enough to use adequate protection had a baby and happened to be 2 drug addicts and said, oh, I'm not, somebody else is going to take care of my problem. So your son, instead of writing from prison and saying to her, thank you for taking care of my child. If there's anything I can do, keep tabs on what it is that you're spending. I can never repay you, but at least I can help when I get out, is very interested in his dog. Who's got my dog, and who's going to take care of my dog, and you've got my dog, and I want my dog back. And she says in the letter, before you ask about your dog, why don't you ask about your daughter, Lark?
Oh, he did.
That's
her.
No.
That's her
much later on in the letter, clearly. Before you get angry. So your son's clearly got his priorities all screwed up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
You have to understand that she's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of suing her...
She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
I haven't done anything to her.
I have no restraining order.
She said she has
it hasn't been served. It never got served.
She said she has no restraining order. What I'm telling you is, I think that you should start to mend fences before you build barriers. This lawsuit is a barrier. You have no case anyway, and I think the long-term picture that you should look at is that it's quite probable that this little grandchild is going to require 2 sets of grandparents to help raise her, unless her parents get their acts together. And so far, I see a mother who checked into rehab for 35 days, which isn't enough time. I hope that your son does better in his program, because certainly he probably has a jail term hanging over his head if he doesn't.
Yes.
In any event, you two ladies, if you're smart, are going to get together for the sake of this 22-month-old baby who probably will need you. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I, had hoped that my son would at least get his dog back.
I think that Kim filed the suit because I am seeking temporary custody of my granddaughter.
Oh, no, it's not. Melody thinks she is Saint Melody and thinks that she can just take everybody's stuff and do whatever she wants.
I hope that Kim can follow through with her promise and teach Lark how to crochet and sew, because I know how to cook and garden.
I just wanted to let her know that she's not going to walk all over me, and yes, I am going to watch out for my granddaughter.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Butler versus Owens. Step forward, please.
24-year-old law student Camilla Butler is suing her former roommate, personal banker Nicole Owens, for breaking a lease and unpaid bills. Nicole says she gave Camilla ample notice.
Miss Butler, you and Miss Owens were roommates. You claim she moved out prematurely, owing you 2 months' rent. The 2 months were for the months that you were not going to be there, but you claim an agreement that she would pay rent until the end of May. You also claim she owes some bills. She said she gave you 3 weeks' notice, and she left her $250 security deposit with you. That more than covers any outstanding bills. That's your defense. When did you move in together?
Your Honor, we moved in together on January 22nd. That's when we agreed to move in together over the phone.
Okay. Now, you moved into an apartment that you had or she had, or that was a brand new apartment?
It was a brand new apartment for both of us.
Good. Can I see the lease, please?
Absolutely.
Who found the apartment, Miss Butler?
The defendant and I agreed to move into the apartment one day. Gage and I went up to Long Beach to...
So you looked at it together for the first time?
We found it separate. I'm sorry. I found it alone.
And you signed the lease alone?
She did not sign the lease. However,
that means that she is not a signatory to the lease. If she did not sign the lease, madam, then she is not responsible under this lease. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is not the lease upon the contract that you are suing on. You're suing on a contract that you had with her, according to you, to live in the apartment until the end of May.
That's correct, Your Honor. It was an
Good.
oral agreement.
And may I see that agreement?
It was not in writing. It was oral, Your Honor.
Well, tell me about the oral agreement that you think is binding.
Okay. We agreed orally over the telephone to move in together. We agreed on an apartment together orally, and we agreed orally that she would sign the lease that evening.
But she never did.
That's true. She never did sign the lease.
Okay, Ms. Owens, let me hear what happened on the 22nd of January.
I never said I would move in and stay there until May. I never made an oral agreement that I would sign the lease that night. None of that ever happened.
Well, when she called you, did she tell you how long a lease she had to sign?
It was month to month.
This is a month-to-month lease.
Yes, Your Honor, it is. However, we agreed together, separately, outside of the lease agreement, that we would be living together until May 31st.
She didn't want to live with you after March.
Yes, she did tell me March 10th that she was entertaining the idea of moving out. At that day, we talked about it. I said, that's fine if you want to move out. That's fine with me. However, if you choose to move out, you need to make sure that you find somebody to move in your place. She agreed.
That's not true.
Well,
no, that's not true. Just because you say it doesn't make it true, Ms. Butler. She paid for March's rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible for the lease in April or May. You could have given your landlord notice and moved. You chose to stay there.
However, we did agree that we would live together until the end of May.
Listen, people get married and they agree to live together till death do us part. 50% of those people go their own way. Just because you agree doesn't mean that she has to stay there. Now, what about her security deposit?
We haven't gotten the security deposit back since the landlord is still in the process of cleaning the apartment and, I guess, seeing what needs to be done.
But you had $250 in security deposit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, what bills do you say she left when she left?
There was a gas bill for February, electric bill for February, garage rental for March, gas bill for March, and also there were 10 days of rent between January 22nd and January 31st, where apparently we didn't pay for it in February, so we had to pay it later, and Nicole never paid that part.
So let me have those figures, please.
Okay. Your Honor, would it be okay for Gage to testify about the conversations he had with Nicole?
Sure. Last name?
Duran.
I'm ready to hear you.
Essentially what happened is Nicole said, I'm just going to leave, and that's the end of the story, and that she gave Camilla her 30 days notice, but the landlord required that 30 days notice.
Well, let me tell you, I've looked over your damages. Your damages, you say, were $1,129.83. If you deduct April's garage rental, because she wasn't there in April, and if you deduct the $850 in rent...
Are you struggling to stay fit because of high costs? You're not alone. Many Americans face similar barriers. Fitness should be accessible to all, but affordability is a major hurdle. Let's explore how we can tackle this issue together. First, let's define the problem. Many gyms charge hefty fees. Personal trainers can also cost a fortune. Healthy food often seems pricey. This discourages people from pursuing fitness goals. To overcome these barriers, we need practical steps. First, explore community resources available for fitness. Many local organizations offer free programs. Next, leverage online platforms. There are countless workout videos available at no cost. Another great option is bodyweight exercises. You don't need equipment for a full body workout. Try jogging in your neighborhood. It's free and effective exercise. Plan your meals wisely. Instead of expensive health foods, prioritize seasonal and local produce. They're often cheaper and fresher. Consider group activities. Join clubs or groups in your area. Sharing resources can drastically reduce costs. Friends can also help keep you accountable. Let's look at an example. Sarah wanted to get fit but faced high gym fees. She started jogging and found a local running group. There, she made friends and saved money. She switched to meal prepping using seasonal produce. By using these strategies, many can overcome financial barriers. Fitness is not just for those with deep pockets. It's for everyone who wants to live healthier. In summary, affordability should not keep you from fitness. Explore community resources, utilize online platforms, and focus on bodyweight exercises. Plan meals around seasonal produce to save money. Are you ready to take action? Start exploring these affordable fitness options today. Share your journey and inspire others to join you.